I'd like to call this meeting of the West Isle South Milwaukee School Board to order. Ms. Carr, would you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Suzette, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Deal. Here. Mr. Sikich.
Present.
Mr. Keller.
Here.
Mrs. Carr.
Here.
Mr. Ustruck.
Here.
Mr. Burns.
Here.
Mrs. Justum's excused. Mrs. Kaiser.
Here.
President Lee.
Here. Now, proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do we have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
I have no changes.
Okay. So with that, we will move on to item number 6, which is the superintendent's report. Dr. Luxman.
Okay, so my apologies, we gotta juggle a little bit. Deidre, can you jump in and grab the, I'll share it with you quick. Sorry, usually I do this in advance. Forgot to share the presentation so we get it pulled up. So we've reorganized the agenda because it starts to make more sense to have the superintendent's report before public comments, because often I'm responding to the previous meeting's public comments during the superintendent's reports. We just, in kind of navigating kind of how to go forward, Noah and I thought that just made sense as a permanent change, or just so everybody's aware of that. And I think it is probably more helpful for the public as well. So we're starting with our return to in-person learning update that we do each time during a regular board meeting. And the little agenda, I'll just kind of talk through this. So we start again with our guiding principles. I'll touch on the health metrics. We'll talk a little bit about where we are with vaccines for students ages 5 to 11. There's a lot of kind of media attention and conversation about that. And then a little bit of update on where we are with elementary winter concerts, and then next steps. So again, our guiding principles are, we try to focus all the time as we work through these unique months. Safety and well-being, learning that works for all, being responsive and flexible, and then practicality of implementation. The good news is where we are in the most recent metrics, and the health department shared an update today that goes back to October 19th. And so we're generally trending down, which is encouraging. These are not big moves, but they're going in the right direction. So we think that's encouraging for us. In terms of our internal metrics, also good. It started to go up a little bit. You can see there that we started to trend up on both positive case rates and the quarantine count or percent in quarantine, and that is both students and staff combined. And so it looked like we were starting a trend going up when we reported on October 8th, and that has come back down again as of Friday, right? So that we're at 1.63% of all students and staff in quarantine. So that's encouraging. And then the next slide just shows the same information on the graph, and this graphic is also right on our website. So it's available as soon as you click on return to in-person learning. That comes up in the main page. So it is something that then parents can monitor. And again, we've talked about if both the blue and the red are hitting 5%, that's where we start to close classrooms and most likely close schools. And so for us, we haven't approached anything near that at this point. And so we're committed to our mitigation strategies and keeping kids in school and as everybody as safe as we can. In terms of vaccines for students ages 5 to 11, right, we're monitoring approvals and rollout. And so what we're hearing is that maybe there's vaccination starting in early November, so this could be coming pretty fast, that they become available. But again, it takes kind of 2 rounds, even for students and young kids, 2 rounds to be fully vaccinated. We are talking about in-school clinics potentially. We've had one conversation with our health department, although there are lots of access points now for vaccination, so it may not actually be the best access point, but we're talking about it. And then we're going to expand our sock incentive so that students, staff that show they've been vaccinated get a pair of branded socks to their school, and we'll do the same for our elementary schools. And then a little update on elementary winter concerts. So we made a change, and it really is due to the why behind changing from in-person to recorded, is really just the uncertainty about where we'll be with vaccinations, and we have to make some decisions now about things that are going to happen a month and even 6 weeks from now. And if you've ever attended any of the elementary concerts, they draw big crowds in very small spaces. It is standing room only on all of them, and we just thought out of just an abundance of caution, again, keeping kids in school and safe. And it really was driven by conversations with our music teachers, that they just felt that for this year, we'll still do the concerts, we're still going to announce when the recording date is, so kids come dressed up, right? Because that's part of the tradition, is kids get a little dressy for their concerts. And we're spending a little bit of money on additional microphones and recording equipment. But a new thing is, which is actually, kind of a silver lining in this, is we have a sound engineering class at Nathan Hale High School. And so the high school students are going to be part of the support of recording the elementary concerts and then getting them out electronically to families. Secondary concerts will be in person, but again, older students have access to vaccinations, and we have larger spaces to perform in, so big auditoriums, big stages. We did do an exercise, could we schedule all the elementaries into high schools, intermediate schools? There are just too many to fit between the secondary or high school concerts and athletics and all of those things. It just got to be impractical. So that's where we are with elementary winter concerts. That communication went to parents today. And then next steps. So again, working with the health department to plan for vaccinations, if that makes sense to do it right in our schools. And the last couple bullets we've seen a few times. Monitoring health metrics to see, is there a point at which we can start to adjust our mask wearing requirements? And we'd all like to get to that place, but we want to make sure that it's safe to do it. And then, again, we're waiting for OSHA guidance on if we're going to be required as an employer to hold employees accountable for being vaccinated, and we're still waiting for that. And again, we'll bring the appropriate information to the board when we have that information. And so then we can go to 6.2, which is the legislative update. And there's a lot of information there. I'm not going to read all of that. It's just some of the headlines and highlights. So DPI releases statewide testing results. So that was on October 21st, the testing results from last year. And it definitely showed the significant impact the pandemic and school closures had on test participation and proficiency rates. And it's very difficult with this round of test information to even start making comparisons because some schools and school districts had higher participation rates, some had very, very low participation rates. So what does it actually mean in the data? But it is at least a starting point again to get us some sense, okay, where are we, where are the kids, and what do we need to do next? These are not the report cards. This is just the results of the forward exam, the ACT. So it's just the raw kind of, here's the percent of students that are proficient, percent of students that are not, and percent that actually participated in the test. Report cards come in a few weeks, and that really creates a little more of apples to apples comparisons from one school district to the next is in the report card. DPI released on October 15th the certified student count data and general aid amounts, and the board was introduced to that in the budget conversations, and the final conversations are this evening as well to approve the final budget for the year. Then the Office of School Safety, we refer to as OSS, just some reminders of the things we have to do. According to Wisconsin Act 143, it was signed into law in 2017. It requires all public and private schools to submit the following information. I'm not going to read all those bullets. To the Office of School Safety by January 1 of each year. So this is required of all school districts, regardless of the participation in the state school safety grants in recent years. We did participate with the safety grants that included putting the double gated or double buzzed in entries at West Milwaukee and at Irving. And then we did a number of other upgrades to camera systems and those kind of things. But we're still required to have plans in place to do the practice drills, those kind of things. And then the board's familiar that usually a couple times a year we come forward with the review of the internal safety plans and do an update in closed session with the board. A couple other things, GOP plans to take up redistricting by mid-November. So again, as a result of the most recent national census, right, we go through a process of redistricting of who's voting for whom and what district are you in when you vote. And that's always pretty contentious. So there's some, in Wisconsin, some of the contentiousness is even over the timing of what has to get included when. Again, all that information is here. I'm not going to read all of that, but we're watching it because it may have an impact on just kind of how things play out in the future and the impact on education. And then a couple bills that are moving. So School Administrators Alliance, SAA, opposes the reading bill in the Senate committee. And this is a reading that would put in new assessments, new requirements, new programs. The opposition is really about local control. This really should be a set of school board decisions, not a state level decision. And then the SAA opposes the GOP bond referendum bill that would require, when school districts go out to bond, to also include estimated interest and interest rate in the referendum question itself. And that may have a chilling effect on, where a community gets really excited about a new opportunity and new buildings. And so the SAA opposed that one. Then the next 6.3 is Board of Education recognition. So just a few things here. Shared journeys. Recognition goes out to the entire Shared Journey staff. Each person on our team has assumed extra responsibilities and is doing a fabulous job. We're also working collaboratively with the Parenting Network and providing some amazing parenting support for current students and alumni. The first family night of the year was a total success. So congratulations to the work at Shared Journeys. From communications, from Amanda, Brandon, who's in the back right now, our technology specialist, has been incredibly helpful, and it's true, really helpful in coordinating tech for all of our community information sessions for our facility master planning process over the last few weeks, and there's maybe many more to come. So we really appreciate, Brandon always shows up, whatever the need is. He is one of those people that is always kind of where you need him, when you need him, so we appreciate Brandon. And then from Sodexo, Steve Costner would like to thank the following individuals for their 30 years of service feeding our students in the district. Jean Baribeau at FLW, and Joan Baribeau at Horace Mann, Joanne Meitner at Jefferson, and Colleen Sams at Nathan Hale. And then finally, just a couple updates and information items from me. I always start with response to public comments from the previous regular board meeting, which was October 11th. There were no public comments provided at that meeting, but even when that occurs, members of the public can always communicate with the board and with our leadership team through email, so there's other mechanisms, not just public comment at regular board meetings. Update on the facility master plan. So we have a workshop coming up. It'll include C.G. Schmidt, Bray Architects, and School Perceptions. School Perceptions facilitated the community-wide survey that was just completed. And so that workshop will share the results of the community survey with the board and begin the conversation of, next steps. Where do we want to go, or where do you want to go as a board in terms of next steps with the facility planning process? And then just other updates. Overall, things are starting to settle in, even though it's an odd year again. And we're continuing to, have the staffing challenges and working through some of those things. One of the unique things, and Mary Ann Marshall are in Human Resources and the team there are really working on, is identifying opportunities to kind of early hire people that really are promising. So we have a number of interns from area universities that are working with us right now as they finish their teaching credentials. And what we're planning to do is for all of them that are good and doing really good work, to offer them an opportunity that we would hire them as substitute teachers for second semester, and going even further to be a little more creative and innovative for those in high needs areas, so math, special education. If we have somebody good now, we're offering them a contract for September and giving them the signing bonus now. So we're like, okay, what college student doesn't want $2,000 now in their pocket, and be committed so that we have them on board for September. So Mary Ann's been working through that with Claire and legal counsel, but we think it's an opportunity for us, and we don't want to miss that. So to get them committed early and for next fall even is part of the plan. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. Any board members have, Jane, do you have a question?
Marty, the DPI statewide testing results, will that be shared with the board?
Yes, yeah, it'll all be, it's all available publicly now, but yeah, Deidre will work it through in committee. And then I think when school report cards come up, that's really the opportunity to have the broader conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Lexman about his report? All right, okay. So we'll move on to item number 7, which is our public comments. As a general reminder, please, if you're providing any public comments to the board, you need to state your name and your address and what item that you would like to discuss or to speak about this evening. If there's anyone watching this meeting via Zoom, if you'd like to provide comments to the board, or out in the elevator lobby, please put your name in the Zoom chat, and then I will make sure to give you that opportunity. Everyone has 3 minutes to be able to speak to the board, and per Wisconsin open meeting laws, the board cannot discuss or respond to any sorts of questions or comments that you might be making, but we will ensure that some sort of comment or response is provided back to you, either personally or at the next regular scheduled board meeting, if there's any questions or comments that require any sort of response. And as a final reminder, everyone who is in the room here tonight will have to maintain wearing their mask properly over their mouth and nose for the entire portion of the meeting. And that would include if you do come up and give any sort of public comments. So with that being said, I will start with the first person signed up here, Mr. Joe Trafficante. Apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, perfect. That's either good or bad, but my name is Joseph Trafficante. It works good. Address is 819 North 6, number 130. And the agenda 6.3 I'd like to address. I represent Tim Rogers, and he is the 4th District representative, well, candidate. And he knows that there will be a redistricting process. I am speaking to both West Dallas and West Milwaukee. We don't know exactly how that will be falling out, but he is aware of it. He wished he could be here, but he is sending me here in his stead. I've got some of his literature so you know what he looks like. I am not Tim. May I hand these out?
You can leave them here with
Okay.
Suzanne.
If anyone else wishes, they may have, I think I have enough for everyone. There you go.
Thanks.
Some of the issues that he has taken on personally is school choice and the voucher system. He approves of that highly. He's aware of local issues like not stepping on the toes of any local administrators, so he's not interested in running your jobs or telling you how to run your municipality. He's not interested in that. What he will do is he will step aside and tell the federal government, no, you may not go here because his constituents, you, do not wish this to happen, or if there needs to be implemented a federal law, he is interested in saying, okay, we need to do that. Currently, you're being, well, 4th District is being represented by Gwen Moore. She has some interesting history as far as a representative. She was under a quarantine, and she broke that to vote for Nancy Pelosi. Whether you like her, whether you hate her, this was a woman who broke quarantine just to vote Nancy Pelosi in, and you know, she would not be mask mandated right now. I can tell you that. She does not believe in rules for her. That was also something I wanted to mention. Tim Rogers does not like bureaucracy that is unresponsive to the individual. He believes that individuals need to have the highest amount of control over their government. At a federal level, the government that governs least governs best. So I don't know how much 3 minutes I have left, but if anybody is interested, this is more for the community as you being represented. If you have any questions, come up to me, ask. I've got authority from Tim. Yeah, you can represent me. So, all right, sir. Hopefully I can answer any questions. If not, I can give you his contact information. And if you have any further questions after that, I can give you a call and get you an answer like right now. Yeah. Next person.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Trafficante. All right, next person up, I have Mr. William Klausing.
name is William Clausing.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clausing, I have to interrupt you. There's someone in the room who's not wearing a mask. Would you be willing to put a mask on, please? No. You're unwilling to put on a mask? That is correct. All right. I would look for a recess.
Move to recess.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are in recess. Okay, we are going to reconvene the meeting at this point. At this point, we're going to suspend public comments and move on to our consent agenda. I would like to mention that if everyone in the room is masked, once our business is complete, we will consider reopening public comments at that point. But there is no guarantee that that will happen, just so everyone is aware. And people can make their decisions accordingly. So let's move on to item 9, our consent agenda. We have item 9.1, which is the approval of minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on October 11th and our special meeting minutes on October 18th. We have item 9.2, the employment summary, item 9.3, supplementary contracts, and item 9.4, our financial summary. Does anyone need anything separated out? If not, I would look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. We'll move on to our action items, starting with item 10.1, our wellness policy review and committee approval. Ms. Strasser.
So I will do a little bit of a preamble here, just so the board gets a little background and Shelley's closer to how this will happen. But there is state statute, and DPI has lots of guidance on the requirements around having a wellness policy and wellness program, wellness plan. There's been a committee that has been working, Jeff was part of it for the board that put together the wellness plan. And it's detailed and extensive, and one of the requirements in the statute is every 3 years to have an evaluation, essentially a review of the programming and the policy itself, the board policy. And so it's a little bit odd to try to navigate like how that gets done, because there are some people that were on the wellness, that are on the wellness committee that would make sense to be part of the next step, but at the same time, that seems to be a little bit of a conflict, that you'd have the people that develop the program evaluate the program, right? But there's a requirement to have somebody from food service on it, so Steve Cosner's on both. So it's a little bit of an odd duck in terms of what we need to do to remain compliant, but we do want to take the step to review the programming and policy. So it's putting together an ad hoc committee, and I asked then Shelley Strasser to take lead of that, to put together the ad hoc committee. This is not a great big project. This is we think maybe 3 meetings.
Yeah.
To go through the process and then come back to the board with, here's a set of the review and the recommendations. So I don't know if you want to add a little more about just kind of how you're approaching it and getting this part of the work done.
Yeah, so as Marty mentioned, it's kind of the committee that reviews the work of the wellness committee. And there's, guidelines as to, and it's laid out in board policy, who needs to comprise that committee. So just reached out to different individuals that would have knowledge of some of the things, because that's, when you look at the policy, some people have to have inner workings of what actually goes on in the district, curriculum, those type of things. There's a report card that we have to use that is provided by DPI. So that's part of the process. You go through the report card, and it's an internal rating. You rate yourselves. And then there's also another recommended process and form that'll be used that digs in a little bit deeper. And then at the end, so right now the plan is 2 meetings, a third if absolutely necessary. And then from here, myself and the committee will report back on our findings, our rating, and then if they have any recommendations for policy changes and or improvements.
Any questions? I had a couple questions. Would those recommendations come back to us for improvements? Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know if
yeah.
we'd go back to the original committee for their,
Yeah, no,
continued work.
we're required to report back to the Board of Education, the
Okay.
score that we give ourselves, and then, again, any recommendations or findings.
Okay. And then the only other comment I would say is that both of the parent representatives are from the same school communities. And I was just wondering if it would be good to try to get, I don't know how these people were sourced, I guess, but if it would be something that, if there was a open call that was used, or how exactly were the parents selected, I guess?
Yeah, so no, there wasn't an open call because we wouldn't be able to accommodate. So we looked for some, and unfortunately in this case, you're correct, 2 are from the same, but we wanted a representative from PTA Council because we figured they could, provide input as a collective whole, representative of that whole group. That also includes the intermediates and high schools. So that's And then the other one I know has some background in the healthcare field, so that would be helpful also with children in elementary school. So in terms of the two parents, that's how they were selected. Again, it was kind of there's a number of people on the wellness committee that you can't invite, and they're on that committee obviously for certain reasons and purposes, so sort of working around that as well, how we chose some of the administrators, the educator, people representing those areas.
Okay. Would it be possible if there was a parent that maybe would fit in from a different community that we could maybe add one more to the group? Would that make it difficult to manage the meetings?
It wouldn't, and there was a parent that was invited from more representative of the east side of the community, but never responded. The same with, there was some other students identified that didn't respond in time to get this posted into the board.
All right. I guess that's all the questions that I had. And just for clarity, my wife is one of the people that is put forth as a member of this committee, but as something that is an unpaid position. It won't have any direct impact on myself financially. I'm not going to recuse myself from this vote, but just for transparency for everyone, I'm aware of that. But any other questions? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion?
I will need to be recusing myself because I'm a member of the Wellness Committee.
Okay, all right, makes sense.
Me too, right?
No, you're a member of this committee, not the wellness, you're part of the review committee, yep.
All right, Jeff will be recusing himself. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, one recusal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll then move on to item 10.2, 2021-2022 school calendar revisions. Ms. Framer?
Yep,
And Dr. Lechman.
I'll just start here. Yeah, we're proposing a couple small changes in the calendar that we think will have some pretty powerful impact. And the rationale for bringing this forward is just trying to find some places within the calendar to give a little breathing room for staff, because teachers in particular that are covering classes, and many of them filling their entire day by taking extra kids or covering classrooms where we don't have substitutes, and then there are still the regular work of preparing for the next day and all the grading of papers and all those pieces. And what we did, it actually was 2 years ago, we introduced that kind of idea of additional planning time for elementary teachers. There's 3 additional days in the elementary calendar that are truly planning days. And we had the room to do that because we had more snow days than we really needed set aside. And elementary teachers, when we compared, had less preparation time than secondary teachers. So that's where that came from. So it's similar thinking to introduce at least 2 into the secondary school calendar. And these would be different than elementary because they wouldn't be all planning time. They'd also be part asynchronous learning, similar to what we were doing on Wednesdays when we were in hybrid last spring. But it provides time for secondary teachers to catch their breath. And we think it's an important gesture. It's small, but it's something we can do to support our educators. And so half of the day with secondary teachers on these 2 dates would be check and connect, is what we called it in hybrid learning. So really an opportunity to check in with kids that, they would be able to pull in when they have prep time. Like, hey, why don't you come and talk to me for a minute when you're in study hall, because we need to get you caught up on where you're at. Well, they don't have that right now. So some of that kind of time to build in to connect with kids, and then half the day would be planning. So maybe I shared all the details.
I think most of them. One of the things that we're hearing back a lot from the secondary teachers is also that time to contact families. They're struggling to find the time to do some of that, so we're trying to provide some additional time during the day. Some of our secondary teachers see up to 150 kids in a day, and so that's a lot of parents to contact if you wanted to get in regular touch about things that were happening in the classroom. The other thing that this would bring forward is a change of the date of what was previously approved as an elementary planning day. Right now, we're not exactly sure how we looked at that calendar 100 times and not exactly sure how we decided to come back from the Thanksgiving break and then have the planning day the following Wednesday. But it would seem to make some more sense to have it the following Wednesday and then add the asynchronous day for the secondary staff on that same day, as well as add the other one in the spring on March 2nd when elementary has their planning day again as well.
Yeah, and there may be some adjusting. Mary Pat's already on top of this regarding, there were some of the winter concerts were already scheduled on the 8th, and they could take place. It's still a school day for secondary students, but there may be a little bit of adapting, and that'll be up to what the teachers want to do at that time. But just so the board is aware that we're working through that in the background.
I did have an educator reach out to me, and they had concerns about moving the December 1st to December 8th. I thought the person brought up some good points. There are schools that have things scheduled already for the 8th. So how do we change that? Because I really don't want our elementary schools, we've already had enough disruptions. If schools already have things planned, field trips, et cetera, which kind of sounds like they don't have a field trip that day, but it's the next day, that's a concern I have, especially because it is it's coming up within the next month and a half.
Yeah, there's not a perfect, anytime you make a calendar change when you're already running the school year, you run that risk, right? There's no perfect way to do this without it being somewhat disruptive. I mean, the other option is to leave the 1st as the elementary planning day and make the 8th the secondary. That again creates some confusion for families. We'd thought lining them up so that the older kids, the younger kids all have the same kind of day in the calendar. But again, it's imperfect once you've already launched a school year to try to make some of these adjustments.
Being an elementary teacher myself, I'm concerned about, I understand the reasoning, but, have you heard feedback from teachers about syncing it up to the December 8th versus leaving it as is? I understand from the parent point of view, I understand from the teacher point of view, that it can be just as stressful if you think you're not going to get to something that you need to do.
Yeah, we did not consult with our teaching staff before proposing the change of dates between the 1st and the 8th to come forward. We did consult with quite a few of our secondary principals because this would be all new to them, and looked at the calendar together to try to pick a date that we thought was reasonable for secondary. One of the concerns with not having them lined up is 2 of the schools felt like they did have older siblings that were staying home on the elementary planning day anyway, to babysit and support the family on the days when the elementary students weren't in school. So lining the 2 days up just seemed to make some logical sense, but we're certainly open to adjusting that.
Right, if the board wants to approve it with December 1st still being the elementary planning day, December 8th is the secondary asynchronous day, we would be supportive of that. Again, we're just trying to figure out how to introduce a little bit of chance to catch your breath.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm not comfortable with these dates at this time because I feel like there's too many conflicts involved. It's going to stress out teachers. But I want them to be given the time. I'm just wondering if we either keep it the same or we come back to the drawing board after we speak to staff and what's going to be easier for them.
There's probably a timing situation
Yeah.
we have to think about here, because if we do end up doing a
Oh, sure,
calendar
yeah.
change,
Right.
we need parents
Yeah.
to be able to plan, and if there's
And-
other things that end up getting moved, that we have to be able to communicate that.
Yeah. And again, we're certainly open to leaving it on December 1st. The secondary staff, the principals certainly checked calendars and things like that, and outside of some of the music concerts that, if the teachers feel like that needs adjusting so that they can rehearse during the day on the day of the concert, certainly we would support that as well. But the principals were all comfortable with that day, which they filled all the field trip requests and things like that. So I guess we made the assumption then that they didn't have a ton of conflicts on the day of December 8th. The principals, I think the secondary principals would also be open to it being December 1st. We just thought for the flow for families to be back on a Monday and then off on the Wednesday and then back again on the Thursday. Maybe there was, since we were proposing adding a date, maybe moving it made more sense for families as well. But we'd be open to either one. We just want to make sure we're just fielding a lot of, this year has been stressful on our staff, and we've added a ton of support to schools anywhere that we knew there was kind of a hot spot of activity that needed addressing, and we've tried to build in as much extra support into our schools as we can, but this has been a tough year on our staff, and our secondary staff in particular are really struggling. The prime thing with those individual contacts with kids, like Marty said, and the parent communication, and then we're hearing from parents that they're frustrated that they're not hearing more regularly from our secondary teachers. So, but the dates and when we put the day, I think we are not as tied to that as we are just getting the time back in the calendar for staff.
Yeah, so the board, if you want to make a motion to have all of that on both elementary and secondary on the first. Right.
Other questions or comments?
How do folks feel about that?
So say that one more time, Marty?
To have instead of December 8th, do all of it on December 1st, so that it's not a change for elementary schools.
So it's still a calendar change, though?
It is, because of the secondary part of it,
So-
correct. Right, so it does take board action.
Mm.
I'm more comfortable with that option. I feel like from what we're hearing from other people, that the 8th, there's just too much going on. And that would put more stress on the situation.
So I know one of the other things that we were considering about this is the fact that we want to make sure that people are in school. And if you're coming off of Thanksgiving break, which is a holiday that a lot of people may travel for, if we have that Wednesday off immediately after that break, we may lose kids on Monday and Tuesday, which is another thing that's the main reason why. And that was our mistake as well, because that's something that when we approved the calendar, we should have realized and not approved it. We never would have approved that if we had realized that, because of that reason. That's why these planning days are on Wednesdays in the first place, is to try to increase our attendance. So if we keep it on the first, we're doing that with the understanding of that we might lose instruction in a group of students on that Monday and Tuesday.
But if it's already in the calendar, then families, if they're traveling, they're already got their plans made. It is what it is.
Possibly. But that's one of the main impetuses when we discussed this in our meeting about having the extra time for our secondary staff, about putting it on the day that we were already having an elementary planning day, but then shifting that date because of the fact that it was butting up against our Thanksgiving break. So, where are we at? Are we more in favor of leaving it on the first and adding in the secondary? Are we more in favor of moving everything to the 8th? Or are we in favor of leaving the elementary on the first and moving the secondary to the 8th? Brendan? I'm sorry.
No, are we moving the secondary to the first? Can we do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
so there's
One
three
of the
possible
options.
options that we could
Okay.
do at this point.
It sounded like that
Well,
was
four.
not.
We could do nothing and not add the secondary option, which means we don't have to take action. We could move everything to the first, which is keeping the elementary the same and adding in the secondary option. We could move everything to the 8th, which is changing the elementary plan and adding in the secondary plan on the 8th. Or we could leave the elementary on the first and add in the secondary on the 8th, if we feel that that would be better for planning or better for attendance. Are those?
Yep.
Right.
And in addition, it adds the asynchronous day on March 2nd as well for the secondary schools, but that one being much further out, I think there's less worry about that one.
Well, I'm good, then I'll just go ahead, I'll just make a motion can we change it to December 1st for both our primary, or both our elementary and secondary schools, and then keep the March 2nd?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All right, so just to be clear, we are keeping the elementary on the first and creating the secondary on the first for the asynchronous day, and also adding an asynchronous day for secondary on March 2nd, 2022. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 10.3, our 21-22 final budget and tax levy. Ms. Windler?
Yay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk high level through our budget and our tax levy and our mill rate. As you know, we work on this throughout the year. We start in early calendar year of 2021 and work through our assumptions, narrow in on our enrollment projections and our actual expenses and our actual revenues. And we have many workshops as we get closer and closer to our final budget. So tonight we're working through those final details. We've worked through the nitty-gritty and in the weeds conversations throughout many board workshops. So tonight we're going to keep it high level and talk through the main calculation that we go through in terms of our revenue limit, and then our tax levy and our mill rate. So you'll see here on screen our tax levy computation. So just a reminder of what that high-level equation is. So we take, to determine our total revenue limit authority, which is the majority of the revenue that we receive as a school district, and in order to calculate what that tax levy is for us, we subtract out our equalization aid, which is a state formula. So the state tells us our equalization aids, and then we then calculate our tax levy. And there are a number of factors that we learned in October. So we had a budget workshop last week where we finally learned of those values, and it did change some of our factors in terms of additional revenue and such. So we worked through what that means for our school budget last week, and all of those decisions now are incorporated into this final budget. So we now can talk through our tax levy. And so we'll basically, all the pieces in these formulas will go through one by one what they are for our final 21-22 budget. Our total 21-22 revenue limit authority for this current school year is $93,075,486, which is very similar to last year, just a slight drop, 0.16% of a decrease from last year's total revenue limit authority. Again, that's the majority of our budget. There are things such as grants, or we call them gate fees, such as if you go to a football game or a sporting event and you pay a fee, something like that. That is not included in our revenue limit authority, but this is the majority of our revenue. We then take our total revenue limit authority and subtract out our aids to get to our total tax levy. So that equalization aid piece is next for us. In 21-22, our total equalization aid is $55,882,399. So this one you'll see is a change from last year, 4.58% increase. So equalization aid is based on the property value per member of our school district in comparison to the state. So as we change and the state changes, that's how this equation comes to be. So our equalization aid increased, which then decreased our total tax levy. So our total all funds tax levy, and this does include Fund 80, which is our community service fund, is $40,226,578. So those two factors that we look through, the total revenue limit and the equalization aid, work in conjunction to create this total tax levy decrease. So that's a 6% decrease, about $2.6 million from the previous year in our all funds tax levy. Another piece of information that is of interest to our board in previous years, so we include it each year going forward, is our private school vouchers. So the way that the private school vouchers work is the state tells us the total amount of our private school vouchers, and we increase the tax levy by that amount. And then we have an equal expense that is paid right back out. So the cost of the private school vouchers is on our taxpayers. And this year, that total amount, so again, the state just tells us this value, is $4.2 million roughly. And that makes up 10.4% of our total tax levy. So total tax levy is, our total vouchers about 4.2, and a total tax levy is about 40.2 million. So 10.4% of our total tax levy goes to our private school vouchers. This is a net expense of $0 to our school district, but is an expense to our taxpayers. The total levy breakdown then looks like this. So we first take, when we go through that calculation, our revenue limit authority less our equalization aid, and we get our total tax levy. We first off the bat have to take off our Fund 38 calendar year expenses. So that's that $3.29 million that you're seeing there for debt service. Those are our Fund 38 debt payments. So debt payments within the revenue limit, which is why it first comes off the top of our revenue limit dollars. And then we add in our chargebacks, which is part of our general fund total levy. And then finally, we add on top of those dollars our community service levy, which is $3 million and has been consistently for many years now. This equates to our total all funds levy of $40,226,578. So the next formula that we'll work through then takes that tax levy and we calculate our mill rate. So our tax levy that we just looked at, that $40.2 million, we'll divide that by our equalized property value, so the property value throughout all of our district, times $1,000, and that equates to our mill rate. So our property value, equalized property value, went up significantly this year, like it did in many school districts across our state. We are well aware of the housing market. Last year, had an equalized property value total of $4.9 billion with a B dollars, and this year we're at $5.3 billion. So that is an increase of 8.81% in our equalized property value, which, as that number goes up, that makes sense when we think about the formula, that our mill rate will then decrease. So all of the factors worked in conjunction together to create such a drop in our mill rate. Our 21-22 mill rate is $7.55, which is $1.20 less than the previous year, or a 13.71% decrease. And again, there are some factors that we have control of. We have paid off our Fund 39 debt, so that is no longer adding to our levy. But some of these other factors our school district does not have control of, and currently they're working in favor to decrease our mill rate. But just wanted to kind of talk through that. They're not necessarily factors that we can control. And I always like to talk through, what does this actually mean for a homeowner in our school district? So that mill rate is the tax rate for every $1,000 of equalized home value. So for example, I threw out 3 examples on here, just big picture, but anybody could do the math on what their individual school-based portion of their property tax payment would be. So for a $100,000 value of a home, that would mean the school-based portion of the property tax payment is $755. For a home that's valued at $200,000 of equalized value, that means a $1,510 school-based portion of their property tax payment. Or for a home valued at $300,000, that would mean $2,265. So again, it's just for every $1,000 of equalized value, you take $755 times that number, and that would be the school-based portion of the property tax bill that a homeowner would receive. And high level, that is what we're working through tonight with our final budget. There are many documents attached to tonight's action item, including the final revenue limit worksheet and our detailed DPI format of all of our funds. So that, any questions with that?
Any questions from anyone? I just want to know one thing. You did do a good job of walking through the fact that there's things that we don't have any control over in regards to the mill rate. And that even though the money that we're actually taxing for went down from last year, and the mill rate went down from last year, if someone's house value went up significantly, they actually could see the portion that we are charging for property taxes increase. So we fully understand and are aware of that as a district, and that's how the funding works. But even though all those things are decreases for us and what the mill rate is, if your house is worth a lot more money, you might have to pay more because that's how the taxing formula works.
Right, yep, exactly. And we see that in the equalized property values going from 4.9 billion to 5.3 billion. That's not all construction, new construction. So therefore, that means many of our home values, most of our home values have increased by some value.
Right, yeah, different for each one, depending.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, I would look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
All right, so that completes our business items for this evening. If everyone is, and I believe everyone is currently masked, we would look to reopen public comments. Never mind. So I would give one more opportunity for everyone in the room to be masked. If everyone would like to be masked or to go out to the area that we have set up specifically for the meeting, for those who do not want to be masked, we could open public comments again. So not seeing that, what we will do is then permanently close public comments. We will now adjourn, I will look for a recess so we can move into our workshop. I would look for a motion on that.
Motion to recess.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are recessed.
5 minutes.
All right, I'd like to reconvene our meeting, and we will go on to item number 11, which is our workshop for this evening on our benefits update with Ms. Windler and our consultant Hayes.
All right, so hi everybody, once again, we are joined tonight by our Hayes representatives. We have Chris Messard and Lorenzo Di Matteo, and Jessica Johnson is our benefits specialist. So we will work through a few slides here on additional benefits that were brought to our school district and are available for our staff. 2 weeks ago, we presented our financial stability and efficiency update, where we talked through additional voluntary benefits that are now available through AFLEC, and along with this comes an online enrollment platform and a benefits education partner. So Hayes is going to walk us through some details on that, and then we'll take any questions from our board. And I'll turn it over to Hayes.
Great, thank you, Caitlin, appreciate it. So just as Caitlin referenced, we're going to walk through just high level hitting the points that Caitlin just referenced for 2022. So adding some new voluntary benefits, very exciting through AFLAC on that piece. So we're going to talk through what those benefits are, high level, how they work. Part of that, of the new benefit offering, is a benefit admin system called Solarix that's going to be available for the district moving forward to utilize for open enrollment as well as new hires moving forward. And then in addition to that, there is a called Concierge Open Enrollment Assistance Program through iBenefit. We'll talk through what that means as well and wrap up with next steps.
This
Yes,
is for
sir.
active employees.
Correct.
Thank you.
This is not specific to the retiree
Thank
group.
you.
Yep.
Great question, though, thank you.
Yep. So for active employees, the new benefits being offered through AFLAC are accident insurance, critical illness insurance, and hospital indemnity insurance. Now, AFLAC obviously is a popular name in terms of commercials, what you see on TV. They are not only offer individual products, but products to employers, such as the accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity. Those are what we're moving forward with for 2022, that employees are going to have the opportunity to purchase voluntarily if they'd like to do so. We'll talk about what each of those benefits are in more detail in a little bit. In addition to that, part of the AFLAC offering, and this is specific to school districts, they don't do it for other private sector employers, is they offer a benefit admin solution called Solarix. They have a partnership with Solarix. And what benefit admin system is overall, we'll talk about it again later, but provides the opportunity to do open enrollment, so take individual elections virtually or done online rather than using a paper form, as well as provide enrollment to your insurance carrier partners rather than on a file feed basis, rather than it being done manually, which is being done today. So administratively, does save a lot of time and energy that way. And then as well, part of the offering does include concierge enrollment service called iBenefit. That is also at no cost. I want to add that Solarix is free. The district is part of the offering, so no cost for the Ben admin system. The enrollment service is benefit educators that will meet one-on-one, either in person or virtually, with employees eligible for benefits. The opportunity to sit with them for 20 to 30 minutes, answer questions that they may have, walk through the benefits overall, really educate them on all the great benefits that are offered by the district, as well as take their enrollment in the Solarix system. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as well, but really the three key components to focus on today. So the benefits at a high level, first going to focus on accident insurance. So accident insurance is really what the name is. If you do have an accident, such as a broken bone, is probably the most common one, but an injury that is involved during an accident, you have the opportunity to receive a cash benefit directly from AFLAC to help cover not only your medical bills, but if you're out of work and you need to pay for part of the mortgage, groceries, any other bills, that money can be used to cover those things. And there are no, what we call existing health conditions that are attached to that, meaning that if you have an existing health condition and you have an accident, it's still going to have coverage, and the benefit payout varies by each of the injury. There's a benefit schedule for that. Critical illness insurance provides a lump sum cash benefit if you are diagnosed with we can call critical illness, such as heart attack, stroke, cancer. There's, again, a benefit schedule associated with that. So, again, those are going to be serious health conditions, probably out of work for some time. provides the opportunity, again, to provide a large sum of money to you, and if that does happen. And then hospital indemnity insurance is to help, really pays a cash benefit if you end up in the hospital, so you have a hospital stay or are admitted to stay in the hospital. That again is a cash payout available to anyone, and then you can receive a payout for a certain amount of days that you're in the hospital if you've purchased that policy. So why do employers offer voluntary benefits? One, it just enhances the overall benefit package, and it provides additional choice to your employees. It's voluntary. No one is having to purchase these benefits. They have the option to. Again, they're something that you see a lot in the marketplace. If you're not purchasing it through your employer, you may be getting it yourself individually, in which case it's probably more expensive than if it's through your employer. So it gives you the opportunity to do that, which helps boost employee recruitment and engagement and retention overall. Also, within each of these benefits, there is what we call a wellness rider, which means that for doing an annual preventive screening, you can receive a cash benefit if you are enrolled in any of these policies, which can help cover the premium overall.
And worth noting there as well, we always talk about with these products, the wellness riders, and they kind of kill two birds with one stone, because you as a district, you want your membership going in for the preventive screenings, right, for their really health, and then overall from a district's perspective for financial outcomes when it comes to your health plan. But because the benefits are voluntary as well, they're doing what we want them to be doing, but they're also getting paid for it. So that payment helps offset the cost of these voluntary benefits. So kind of a win-win.
Again, as I referenced, provides access to financial protection with lump sum payments for certain events. The benefits are also portable, so if someone were to leave the district, they have the opportunity to take them with them if they'd like to pay for them. And again, there's no direct cost to the district. These are voluntary and fairly low cost from an employee perspective.
I think overall, you see the benefits here as we talk about employers offering these. But I would say in the last 2 to 3 years in particular, the popularity of these products in the marketplace has taken off. I mean, everybody's asking about them, talking about them. At least part of that is with increasing deductibles, because these types of programs can work very well with health plans that have higher deductibles to cover those higher out-of-pocket expenses from employees. But just know that these have become very popular in the marketplace. So I think a great ad for the benefit program for West Dallas, West Milwaukee.
So for the district, from an administration standpoint, as I referenced, part of the AFLAC offering is to provide Celerix, which is a benefit admin system. So as I mentioned earlier, and benefits admin system is really meant to manage employee benefits enrollment, which again leads to efficiency through benefit administration. But in the past, enrollment's been done via paper. I will say, from in a private sector, that's changed a long time ago that it's been done electronically. We continue from a public sector starting to see transition to using more electronic systems like a Ben admin system. So that will reduce the use of paper overall. So with the Celerix tool, again, provided free, there's a fully integrated benefits menu. So the employee has an opportunity to see all the benefits that are offered through the district. It is a web-based setup for benefits enrollment and administration. The tool itself, Celerix, is customized to the district, so the eligibility and benefits offered are all customized within the system. There is a self-service option available as well. And then there are also decision support tools for enhanced employee engagement as well. I think one of the benefits of this enrollment system is when you go in and utilize it, you see not only the cost to you on a monthly basis as an employee, but also what the district is paying from the benefits. So it really helps enhance employees, or helps the understanding that employees have with what is the actual cost of health insurance to the district, not just what I pay, but what the district pays, to see the overall benefit package to them. Yes?
So for the administration system, would that be for
all the benefits then? So
Correct.
dental, vision, in addition to these voluntary ones?
That's a great question. Yes, so the benefit system is not only for the AFLAC, but it's going to be for medical, for dental, for vision. All those pieces are going to be included in this system, which again is going to help the benefit team with administration moving forward. So, we talked about iBenefit. Who are they? From an overview perspective, they are a national company, provide an enrollment firm with over 20 years of experience. Benefit counselors help employees educate and enroll employees in benefits and confidence, meaning that, as I mentioned, they'll meet one-on-one, either in person and virtually. Right now, district employees are going through and signing up for individual meetings with counselors. Have the opportunity to ask them any questions. All these benefit educators are, say, educated on your benefits, West Dallas, West Milwaukee benefits specifically, prepared to speak to them. And not only are they educating them, but also going through the enrollment process with them in Solarix and enrolling them in their benefits. Benefit counselors are licensed, salaries, professional trained. This is what they do for a living. As I mentioned, specifically trained on West Dallas, West Milwaukee benefits, 20 to 30-minute meetings. And the nice thing is, as part of it as well, is when an employee signs up, if they want to have their spouse participate in the meeting, they can have the spouse participate in the meeting as well. So maybe the decision maker isn't the one that's actually working at the district when it comes to benefits, so as an opportunity for the decision maker in the home to ask questions as well. And then, as I referenced, again, majority of enrollment is done electronically, so reducing the use of paper.
And to kind of, I guess, talk about the iBenefit communication benefit with the question earlier about all benefits being included in the enrollment system. So the iBenefit counselors have the ability to answer questions on all your benefits. So employees may sign up and only have questions on medical, or maybe it's life insurance, and the counselors are trained to talk about all of those benefits. And so as Lorenzo mentioned, appointments are being filled right now. Employees will have the ability, if they need to schedule a separate appointment as well, to have a follow-up discussion with a counselor. And again, this system is new, so it's important that the iBenefit counselors have the ability to actually enroll the employees, which is key. And from our perspective, over the past, we've seen it particularly with, virtually every client, is that a lot of employees are, I don't want to say underserved because that sounds negative, but underserved in the education perspective about their benefits. Oftentimes employees don't understand their benefits until they need them. And oftentimes they're afraid to ask questions. This will give them the opportunity to ask any and all questions that they want to in confidence with a trained professional. So this benefit is incredibly valuable and again, free to the district through the addition of these products. So from our perspective, a ton of value there. So we're fully expecting there to be great turnout, great feedback on it. And I think that there are already hundreds of people signed up speaks to the fact that people are really looking forward to this.
Also, during our open enrollment period, which is November 1 through the 15th, the first is a PD day. So generally, probably the most flexibility a teacher will have in their schedule as opposed to a regular school day. So we made sure that we worked with Leadership and Learning to understand when and where staff will be during those times and when they might have availability. And we've worked to adjust when and where the counselors will be. The benefit counselors will be on November 1st to be accessible all the days, but especially that day when the professional development sessions are ongoing.
Thanks. So what's next? As Caitlin referenced, open enrollment is beginning on November 1st and runs through November 15th. This is going to be an active enrollment. We are putting these benefit educators in place. So with that, we want employees to actively set up those meetings and have discussions with them, if anything, to ask questions, understand the new Solarix system. But from an enrollment perspective, then that means employees must elect medical, dental, vision, and FSA, or not must elect, must go through the election process, or those coverages will be waived for 2022. And then, as I referenced, iBenefit will be enrolling employees electronically in that Solaric system. And then as referenced earlier, Solarics will be used for not only open enrollment, but for all new hires going forward as well.
So, if someone elects nothing, is there any sort of, before the timeline is up, any sort of reminder or something like that that goes to them, just make sure they forget about it, and then they don't have health insurance for a year?
Yep.
Yep. I can log into Solarics and see who has not signed up for benefits, so I'll send out separate reminders and phone calls to people
Okay.
to make sure that they.
Good. I just want to make sure. I know if you missed that window, you're SOL, so I just want to make sure that
Right, or
we
if you're
are reminding people.
Front of like a leave of absence, like I won't,
Yeah.
I got it all.
Great.
So, and we've
Yeah,
been
and
working with, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Caitlin.
With our consultants and our partners on developing those communications. So we actually have a whole series of communications ready, and we just have to press the button on the right days. And so there's a series of communications going out before open enrollment even starts. The first one went out last Friday with the sign up. We have 200 plus people signed up already.
Kind of like 50.
250.
One day.
Already signed up. So that's very encouraging for us, and we talked with our leadership team about this, so they're aware, and also in our regular leadership and secretary updates. So our staff and Jessica's getting questions, which we take as a really good thing, because it means people are listening and they're reading and they're aware. And we have a series of communications that'll still go out before November 1st, and then throughout open enrollment period.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jane, did you have a question?
And you just answered all of my questions. I just, with active enrollment, obviously for the first time, I think that, if staff isn't aware of it, boy, that would be really a hardship. And so the fact that you have all of those protocols in place, I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
And just as an addition to that, we also worked together on some of the communication, so all the communication about the PD day also included a bunch of the things about the benefits, so we could fit it in as many places as possible, so that the staff were saying, yep, okay, I have permission to leave myself on my PD day to go and do this, and so I put that all right in the email to staff as well.
Amy?
I just wanted to say, just make an opinion, or not me. I just want to say thank you for the work, because my husband works in the insurance industry, and I know that I think this is going to really be beneficial to our teachers. Plus, if it's all in one centralized place, they don't have to look somewhere else for these voluntary benefits. And I think a lot of people are, like you said, are in the marketplace, are really looking for this. So I just wanted to say thanks for putting in the hard work, because I know that this is a lot of stuff to put together. But I think it's really going to benefit our staff, and I think that's really exciting. So
Thanks. And I will say one more comment too on the active enrollment. There's a number of reasons we've talked through why it's beneficial, and many organizations do an active enrollment every year. We don't historically, but there is one piece. We talked through our dental benefits. Our staff pays 0% for dental benefits, and our district pays 100% for dental benefits. There could be a case where a teacher doesn't even know that they have dental benefits. It doesn't mean it's free. It means that it's free to our staff. So it's just another way that we can inform staff of what they have. And let's say a staff member is enrolled in a family dental benefit plan, and they're also enrolled in a spouse's dental plan. So it's just a way that we can just be financially responsible, and also just educate our staff and exactly what benefits they have, and what's needed for them. Another opportunity too is for them to correct potentially any misspellings or wrong birth dates or social security numbers, et cetera, as they go through.
Yeah, it would be an outstanding opportunity to clean up records, and then what we typically see with active enrollments then is much better engagement by employees of understanding their benefits, because they actually have to know what they're enrolling in, and therefore they appreciate the value of the benefits too. And that's why all of this coming together with professionally trained counselors to educate, I mean, it's kind of again, a win-win from our perspective, and we fully expect a lot of appreciation just simply on the education. And when we've used counselors like this in the past, the feedback has been very positive for the employer, because employees feel valued, right? You're taking the time, you're committing the resources to educate us, so that's why we see such a value in a service like this.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I feel informed.
Mission accomplished.
Thank you. I think this will be great. I think it'll be a good thing for our employees, and it'll help out our benefits office as well. And maybe even save the district some money by making sure people are enrolled for things they actually need.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
So I would look for a motion to recess so we can set up for a closed session meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in recess. All right. I will look for a motion to reconvene into open session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Carr?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Deal?
Here.
Mrs. Kaiser?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Eustruck?
Here.
Mrs. Justum's excused. Mr. Sickich?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
President Lee?
Here. All right, so we are here to take action on our discussion in closed. And so I would like to make a motion to amend the expulsion order as discussed in closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. I would then look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I'm just gonna